Okay, well, thank you for those that are joining today. Our webinar is called From Search to Selection, 3 Keys to Recruiting Providers in a Tight Labor Market. My name is Megan Lynch, and I lead the HR responsibilities and processes for the Acuity Hearing Network. There are some of our team members from Acuity on this webinar today. And just to do a brief kind of shout out and intro, Acuity, one of our purposes is to help clinic owners thrive and have fun and be profitable. And so we do have practices and processes in place to help you achieve those goals that you have. Our team members are built on people that have owned and operated clinics, hundreds of clinics, in fact, across the U.S. and have been successful. And so we'd love to help you if you have any needs that you're working on accomplishing. This is my contact info. Feel free to jot it down. I'll have another slide at the end that will have this on there as well. Would love to connect with you on LinkedIn or connect with you over email or over the phone and talk anything related to people. So today, why are we here? We're here to talk about one of our biggest choke points and struggles in the industry is finding providers. And so we're going to talk about, what is the market like right now? I think we're all aware that it is difficult to find people. Maybe you're here because you have a recruiting process in place and you just want to see, are there any tips or tools that you can add to that proven process that you have? We're going to talk about the candidate profile and aligning competencies and core values with what you're looking for, and also touch on where to recruit. This webinar is being recorded. We do have the chat feature enabled, so if you have a question throughout the presentation, feel free to pop it in the chat and we'll have some time at the end for questions. Rebecca and Sarah are monitoring that chat and they'll reach out to me at the end with the questions. So again, we know that it is really difficult to find people right now. This slide right here is talking about our employee journey. This is proprietary to Acuity, but we're willing to share it. And today we're not going to talk about each step of the employee journey just for time purposes, but we are going to touch on sourcing and selection and where do we find people. Other parts of the employee journey that we will have future webinar series on are orientation and onboarding. We have tools for training, for developing our team members, performance management as well. So again, today we're going to really focus on sourcing and selection and finding people. This data on the slide is coming directly from the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, and it's really just talking on, we understand it's difficult to find people. The U.S. unemployment rate is 3.8% across the country, and there's around 900 job openings a year for audiologists. In fact, this morning I looked on Audiology Online, and there was very close to 900, 867 jobs posted across all locations in the U.S. So again, we know this is a very niche market. It's difficult to find people. Some of the things that we're hearing when we talk to internally amongst our teams or to other business owners is, we can't find people. Our clinics are going to go dark if we don't get someone in there. Our wait time for our patients is way too high. Another thing that we hear, like, oh, I found a provider, but they want to be paid too much. The Bureau of Labor Statistics is saying the average audiologist pay is right under $90,000, and that is considering both base and bonus when you look at compensation. We, in fact, internally have interviewed several audiologists that are graduating school this spring, and like 10 years ago, we maybe would have heard, I need 70. The number that we're hearing now is we need to be making at least 80,000. Seems like that's what new grads are asking for. So how do we compete with that? How do we come up with creative solutions to be able to communicate our compensation structure? We're also competing for these audiologists and HISs with other settings, such as, hospitals, schools, universities, ENTs, even manufacturers. So it's difficult to find people. And we've identified the problem, but what are some strategies and solutions that have worked for us at Acuity to help us fill our provider positions? One of the first steps that we think about when we're looking to fill a provider role is, what does that candidate profile look like? So defining what we're looking for in a candidate. This is something that we talk about on the beginning end of the process, like even before we start sourcing, so that we're being accurate in how we're marketing our positions and posting our jobs online. So what skills, qualifications, maybe education or experiences are we looking for? What kind of personality do we think would make a great team player? We incorporate this throughout, again, like our job postings and throughout the interview process and in our onboarding. This is an example candidate profile that we have identified and we do use when we post our positions online. So of course, we're looking for someone ideally that is already licensed as an HIS or has their doctorate in audiology and has graduated from an accredited program. They're licensed in the state that we're operating, or we can get reciprocity and get them licensed in the state that we have our clinics. We're looking for people that are motivated to help the patient hear better. Better hearing is the agenda. We're also looking for providers that hopefully would be ideal if they had an entrepreneurial mindset. Some of our clinics are in remote locations, and there's going to be a lot of autonomy involved. A lot of them have maybe a two-person office. So there's a provider and there's a PCC. So are they able to, work well with maybe one other person and take what we teach them in our weekly and quarterly trainings and implement that without maybe a lot of oversight? Somebody that has excellent follow-up skills. Time is of the essence. So, every patient interaction is important. They're proficient in doing the diagnostic testing, evaluations, and then interpreting the results. Is this person able to communicate the importance and the urgency of treating this patient's hearing loss? Somebody that has that excellent communication skills, building rapport with both the patient and their coworkers. They have the ability to make other people feel important. And are they ambitious? Do they have a strong sales acumen and aptitude? They see the opportunity in every interaction. This would be somebody that understands the metrics and the goals that we have for the clinic, and they're able to work towards achieving those goals. One thing we talked about, and we know it's hard to find people that are already licensed and that have their HIS or have their doctorate in audiology. So maybe you're finding someone that has a really high sales aptitude that you met at a restaurant that's a server, or you met at a cell phone shop, or any kind of sales customer service background. This is somebody that we would consider putting through our clinician and training program and training internally to get them up to be a proficient provider. And that's something that we'll talk about more in future webinars. On this slide, you can see our core values that we have at the Acuity Hearing Network. And this is something that we communicate in the job posting. We communicate this throughout our interview process. And then we also have a core value presentation that we go over in orientation. So some of our core values that we focus on and we are looking for in a candidate that would be a great team member are: make other people feel important, time is of the essence, forever a learner, see the opportunity in every interaction, and better hearing is the agenda. You probably heard some of those words in the last slide where I was talking about our candidate profile, and those were taken directly off of what we post online when we're looking for providers. We also do something I think that's kind of fun and unique. We have an annual awards gala and dinner every January where we celebrate the success of our team throughout the year. We have members of our leadership team vote on team members that receive awards for core values. So we give out a beautiful crystal award for each core value and celebrate and recognize our team members for living into that core value throughout the year. We think that having core values identified and communicating helps our team understand, how do we behave? So how are we behaving at work, and how do we perform well? Like, it's not just your metrics and your performance, but it's also your behaviors and how you're treating your team members and your patients. It helps identify, is this candidate a good culture fit? Are they going to fit in with the team and be a great fit for our offices? Another part of our interview process that we have done for a very long time and we have found to be successful is we do PXT assessments with our top candidates. This is an example of a recent provider that we hired that is starting in June, and they completed a PXT. Typically, kind of a tip that we say is we'd like to see an 80% match or higher. Of course, there's things to consider, but especially in those behavioral traits, do they match the proven strand of successful providers we've hired in the past? This person has a 90% match. They have a 90% match in behavior and 95% match in the top, which is thinking style. Thinking style really talks about, or is, how are they able to learn and pick up the things that we're training them on? Do they have great verbal skills or numeric reasoning, which will make them understand the metrics and the goals they have in place? This is something that, like I said, we have incorporated into our interview process. And this is also something that Acuity would be happy to help you with. Maybe you have a recruitment process that you have in place, but you want to add PXTs. We can do that for you. And I'd be happy to get you set up with adding a PXT for your top 1 or 2 candidates. It's something that is $225 per PXT. We buy them in bulk, and we're willing to get those set up for you if that's something you're interested in adding to your interview process. Now, where do you recruit? So once we have our job position, ready to go, we know what we're looking for, we have an interview team in place. There's multiple different recruiting channels. When you think of your local clinic marketing for finding patients and getting people into the clinic, this is very, very similar. It's how are we going to recruit? How do we locally reach out to our network? How do we, get people to apply online? So we do post our positions on social media. We use our company Facebook page. We also use, our website. We have a LinkedIn page that we post positions. You can kind of see an example of that right there on this slide. We're hiring, we're looking to add people to the team. We use different job boards. So we've had a lot of success using Indeed, but we also use Here Careers, again, LinkedIn. We use Audiology Online. We probably post an average about 50 jobs a year on Audiology Online. And honestly, we get very little applicants from that. So our secret tip on Audiology Online is we like to always have a job posted, and then I go hunting. So if you have a job posted, you have access to Audiology Online's resume database. And as I mentioned earlier in the presentation, there's almost 900 jobs posted out there. It's inundated with all kinds of different competitors, manufacturers, but you can, comb through resumes and do searches by location, or you can search, just audiologist if you want an AUD, or just HIS or trainees. You can even look for PCCs on there. And then I start emailing, connecting with on LinkedIn or different sites, or calling and sourcing and hunting. So that's a tip to use Audiology Online if you're not already doing that. Also, leverage your network. So if you're going to post your job on your Facebook page, tell your team members, like in your team meeting, or reach out to your team members and ask, will they share that post with their network? There's several different Facebook groups for the audiology community that you can share jobs on, and we've had success with posting those as well. Making sure to network in your local community, whether that's a chamber or hearing, state licensing board. We can get state licensing lists and target candidates that way as well. We have a really great marketing team here at Acuity that can help create collateral. If you want to send something electronically over emails, or if you want to send like a mailer and a flyer, our marketing team has created really great recruitment marketing tools for that as well. So to bring it back to the employee journey, we offer processes and proven tools and resources for each part of our employee journey. We will have future webinars. Some of the topics, kind of just to tease that out, will be around clinician pay. So how do you pay your providers so that they're motivated, they're achieving their personal goals, they're being successful, and the clinic is also being profitable and successful. We're going to talk about training. So like I mentioned, we have a clinician and training program that has worked really well for us for training people that have that culture fit. They have that sales acumen. They're somebody that would be a great provider, and we put them through a very robust training program that's deliberate, and we've achieved several great providers out of that program. And then we have, retention tools. So we measure turnover. How do we retain our team members? Employee engagement. We offer payroll processing. We also have performance management tools and create employee handbooks and things like that. So we do have future webinars coming up about our employee journey, and we'll invite you all to those as well. And then again, I want to share my contact information. I am offering a free 30-minute consultation in June. So feel free to reach out to me and we can get that scheduled. That could be anything from, I just want to pick your brain about recruiting, or I'm having an employee relations issue. Can you help me work through this situation? Maybe just being a sounding board and commiserating on how hard it is to find people, but would love to connect with you if you'd like to talk more about anything people related and our employee journey. And so thank you very much for joining. I want to open it up for questions. Feel free to put those in the chat, and then I think Rebecca or Sarah will reach out to me and I'll try to answer those in our last remaining minutes here.
Hi, Megan. Tom has asked a question in the chat. He's asking, how can you tell the passion to sell and help people hear better and have a sense of urgency in the interview? Do you have any tips on that?
Yeah. Hi, Tom. Thank you for the question. So we do look at some of that through the PXT, such as pace. Are they like fast paced, or are they going to be a little bit more slow and deliberate in the process? Another thing is in our interview process, I probably should have gone into greater detail about this, but we start out with an initial phone interview or virtual interview over Teams or Zoom. And then if everything goes well, we have someone go through our interview with our hiring manager, which is usually like a regional manager in our clinic. If they're local, we do that step in person. If not, we do that again virtually. And then our final round interview is typically it's a on-site clinic visit. And so we have someone come on site for at least a day. We fly them in, if they're not local, we pay for their flight, put them up in a really nice hotel. We do either a very nice lunch or dinner with the team and put them through like a working interview or a job shadow. So it gives them a kind of a inside look into our processes and our pathway, how they get to sit in on patient appointments, and we get to see how maybe they would interact in front of a patient. And so like getting to spend so much time, like we're very deliberate about not just making a quick hiring decision. It's like a courtship. So we go through this whole process, and we do see, like, to answer your question, we see a lot of that, how do they interact? Do they have that sales mindset? We ask questions about like, what were their previous goals? Do they have information on close rate? What were their targets? What was their net revenue, or, of their clinics they've worked in the past, if they have experience. And usually, like I'll say for myself, I can tell if it's kind of like going over their head and they don't know any of these numbers, they haven't even thought about it, or we have a really experienced like seasoned clinician that's very like numbers focused, and they can tell me like I need to make this amount of money, or I did this in my office last year, and they're proud to share it. We can verify through like we've been pretty transparent with the metrics, like this is what we did in this office last year, and here's what our goals are for the year coming up. So those would be a few tips. We can definitely talk more about that, but hopefully I answered your question, Tom.
Again, that's the only question in the chat so far. Oh, just kidding. Tom just popped in one more question. He said, how much emphasis do you put on the PXT versus the interview?
Yeah, that's a good question. So we always say like the PXT is not the final decision maker. It's a complementary tool. We try to have like an 80% match for especially the behavioral traits. If someone does not have like an 80% match and they're really off on one of the areas, the PXT offers us a way to dig a little bit deeper into some of those, like let's say, it was pace, or it was the sociability one. Maybe they're more introverted versus extroverted. What office would they fit in? How do they fit in with the team member they're going to be working with? So I would say it's not like a end all be all. It's only the PXT. The interview is a really great way to see someone live and in person, and it works together. They work hand in hand. So it's part of the process, but it's not our final decision maker.
Thanks, Megan. It looks like some other people are typing questions, so give me just a second.
Yeah.
Aranza asked, what part of the PXT is most important?
Yeah. So I'd say like for the fit of if they're going to be a strong provider, the behavioral part in the middle. So I could go back to the slide so you can see it. So the behavioral traits are going to be real important in terms of if they're going to be a good fit. So like some of the judgment, are they thinking with their heart or their head? Conformity is a little bit like manageability. Like, are they going to be easy to manage, or are they going to conform to the processes and the pathways you have in place? Or are they going to be a little bit more maybe stubborn or strong-willed on how they've done things in the past? They're all important. The top, so thinking style, it's like, how trainable are they going to be? Are they going to pick up on things very quickly? It's probably how well did they do in school a little bit, like, for the verbal and the numeric reasoning, in terms of, it's important. If they are a little bit lower, like outside of the range on the thinking style, it's not that we wouldn't hire that person, but we might have to repeat the training processes a little bit more, more than we would with somebody that's like a higher thinking style in terms of picking up on the process faster.
Aranza also asked, how important is pace? If they score low, do you find that to be a problem?
So I've looked at a lot of PXTs, and this is a generalization, but a lot of audiologists tend to score lower on pace than some of our HISs that we hire. And again, that's a generalization, but it is a trend that I have seen. And that doesn't mean they're not successful. They're maybe not as used to the sales pathway and process coming out of school, especially if this is a new grad. We do have an audiologist that is super successful on our team that was a collegiate athlete. And, so that's something we knew through the interview process that came out in, she also happened to be strong in pace on the PXT, I believe. So could it be a problem? Yes. Is it always a problem? No. We kind of see around like the 5 or below typically on audiologists on pace. And we know that going into it, and it's something that we train for, we coach to, it's something that we can continue to have conversations around in our check-ins and our business reviews and performance reviews. I wouldn't say we've probably ever hired someone though that has like a 1 in pace. It's usually around a 4 or 5. Yep, you're welcome.
All right, Megan, that's it so far for questions.
Okay, well, I'll go back to my contact slide, and like I said, I would love to connect with any of you. Anytime, reach out, and I'm offering a consultation in June. There'll be more webinars coming up in the future around different people topics. This was our first one, so I appreciate you listening in today and taking some time out of your busy days to go over a really important topic of provider recruiting and people processes.